I'm telling you, folks, this one probably will pass if we don't do something and do something now. And that's the purpose of the podcast.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
All right, first of all, I am getting over the remnants of a cold, so be patient with me. I have not recorded a podcast in actually over a week. Man, I don't get sick very often, but when I get sick, it really hits me hard. So I apologize for the raspy voice, and I may have to pause a few times to do a little coughing and keep my throat dry. But today, the topic was important enough that I felt like I needed to come back to the microphone and do it quickly because time is of the essence. Speaking of time being of the essence, are you using a la mode? Are you getting your appraisal work done quickly, efficiently? You should be, and you should be using a la mode software to do it with. Go to alamode.com or pick up the phone and call them at 800 a la mode. Of course, if you want to save 30 to 60 minutes per report, every single report that you do, you need to be using DataMaster. DataMaster is the ability to download directly into your report some of those things that are super important, the comps, the subject, the taxes. Go to datamasterusa.com for more information. Again, it's datamasterusa.com. Finally, we are sponsored by Working RE Magazine. Folks, we're going to be talking today about what is going on in the appraisal world. And if you want to know what's going on in the appraisal world on a regular basis, you need to be at workingre.com. Again, it's workingre as in workingrealestate.com. Okay, folks, we are going to talk about it. I don't normally get political on this show, but I think this one's important enough that we need to put a show out there for my listeners. First of all, to make sure we're all on the same page. And second of all, I am going to give a call to action today. Don't turn this off. This is super important. You may think you already know what's going on here, and maybe you do. You may think you've already done your duty. Maybe you've already picked up the phone. I don't know. That's fine too. But I really want to make sure that we as appraisers come together on this. So we talk often in our doings about the fact that we don't have a lobbying force, very, at least an organized one. We've got coalitions out there. We've got some great people doing some great things. We don't have something like the National Association of Realtors. Now, a lot of us are part of the National Association of Realtors, but we all know that their main focus is realtors and brokers. And so, here's what we do. Here's what we do, appraisers. We come together on shows like this and on Facebook and social media and other shows that are putting the word out and other appraisers that are putting the word out. And we come together to make a difference. And I know a lot of us don't feel like we do make a difference. I don't think a lot of us feel like we have much clout. And frankly, alone, that is probably true. Alone, standing alone, singly, we don't live in the type of political atmosphere that we alone usually can make a big difference. Now, there's exceptions to that rule, obviously. But standing together, being unified together, and coming together as appraisers and as a force of individuals who care about the economy of this nation, we can make a difference. We can. Frankly, the we can't make a difference attitude is kind of what keeps us from getting off our butts and trying, really. I mean, it's really, 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 really easy to say, that's a problem. Bugger. You know what? I really can't make a difference, so I'm going to sit here and eat Cheetos and watch Netflix. It's easy. Folks, I'm raising my hand right now. You can't see me, but I am raising my hand as being one that sometimes gets a little apathetic when it comes to the political scene. Now, I want you to know something, a little trivia about Dustin Harris. I have been very, very involved in political things throughout my life. I grew up in a family that was very politically inclined. I went to rallies. I went to delegate conventions. I went to speeches by politicians. I went to some of the after parties and some of the return parties. And my parents were very involved in their political circle and very politically involved in the organizations in their small local town and on a state level. My dad went to the convention, the national convention in 1980. He was a delegate for the state of Idaho. He was a city councilman. He ran for other offices. Very involved in politics throughout my life. In fact, it was a big deal to me through growing up, and became an even bigger deal to me after I first got married and started getting very involved in politics on a local basis. I ran a nonprofit organization regarding politics and being very outspoken with regard to some of my political leanings. But don't worry, by the way, folks, I'm not going to indicate what those are. I've told them here before what my leanings are. And by the way, just to be clear, they're not Democrat or Republican. I'm not going to get political with you today. I just want to let you know that I have been very involved in politics throughout my life, and I have felt like at times that has made a difference. I've also been discouraged at times and felt like my vote doesn't count. My vote is just one vote among many. What can little old Dustin Harris do? On the other hand, the reason I give you that background is not to pat myself on the back and not to blow my own horn and to say, hey, look at the good things that I'm doing. Gee, what a good guy Dustin Harris is. No, I give you that background because I want you to know I've had a little experience with this stuff. I've had, and I do stress a little, I'm not as involved as some, but I do kind of get it when it comes to politics. I understand how they work. I understand what does work. And I'll tell you what does make a difference. Does it change the aspect all the time? No. But one thing that can make a big difference to a politician, remember, you got to remember what motivates these individuals, okay? Your senators, your congressmen. What motivates them? What motivates them, honestly, is power, money, and popularity. I mean, that's the honest. Now, are there exceptions to that? Sure. Are there, is that fair to paint everybody with a broad brush? No, of course not. But I can tell you that in general, that's what motivates people in Washington. They want to have power. They want to have money. They want to have their constituents like them. That's just the honest truth. Most of the politicians come with a bit of an ego. Okay. And so we can, as their constituents, use that to our advantage, right? We can withhold our money and our donations. We can withhold our vote. That's the power side. And we can let them know when we're disappointed in them. And that does make a difference. Now, one or two people, no, probably not. But a group of people saying, hey, Senator so-and-so, I don't like you very much right now. You're not doing things that make me happy. I'm telling you, I've worked with these individuals enough to know that does move them. That does motivate them. Probably not as much as the money and power side does, right? They like votes. But because they like votes, they like you to like them. That's just the nature of politicians. They want to be liked. And so if you can pull at those heartstrings a little bit, sometimes it does make a difference. It does make a difference on the way things move. And that's what we're going to talk about today. What can you, little old appraiser in Podunk, Indiana, do about Senate Bill 2155? What is Senate Bill 2155? Folks, you've probably already heard of Senate Bill 2155, but we're going to lay it out there just briefly. You can fast forward through the next little part if you would like, if you already understand what's going on. But I'm going to break it down very simply. I'm going to make it very easy to understand. I don't claim, first of all, to have read the whole bill. It's huge. Second of all, I don't even claim to understand. It's written by lawyers, right? It's written by lobbyists. It's written by politicians. You combine those three and you get a pretty confusing document, as you can imagine. But I understand at least what it's trying to accomplish. So I'm gonna lay it out in layman's terms, mostly for my benefit, not yours. You guys are all much more savvy than I am with regard to this stuff. But I'm going to boil it down and make it understandable on my level, and hopefully that'll be helpful to my listeners as well. Senate Bill 2155 is titled the Economic Growth, Regulatory Relief, and Consumer Protection Act. All right, I'm already confused, right? Just in the title. Basically, it's this. It's the replacement for the Dodd-Frank. You all know what the Dodd-Frank is. Doubtful any of us have read it start to finish. I have read the appraisal part of it, by the way, the financial side of it that has to do with appraisals, and that was boring enough for me, right? But I'm no fan of Dodd-Frank. I never have been. I think that it was ill written in the beginning. I thought that it was so big and convoluted that how can it possibly be of benefit? I'm a simple man. I'm a simple man. I'm a simple business owner. And I'll tell you, the more simple I can make my business, the more easily it runs. Now, that flies in the face of what we find in Washington, obviously. What happens in Washington is a catastrophe. I mean, it is quintessentially what we refer to as red tape. And I think they think the bigger the bill is, the more confusing it is, the better off it is. Well, I believe it's disastrous, right, when you do something like that. But I want to make it clear, I was never a fan of Dodd-Frank. I think that it tried to solve some legitimate issues. There's no doubt in my mind, because I've been an appraiser for 23 years, there's no doubt in my mind that there was some coercion happening in the marketplace between, say, mortgage officers and appraisers, that there was an unsaid but definitely implied idea that if you come in at my value, my estimate of value, the quote unquote borrower's estimate of value, that we're going to send more deals your direction, right? I tried to pride myself on running an ethical and moral and upbeat and honest appraisal office. But there's no doubt that there was coercion that happened out there. And unfortunately, some appraisers would succumb to that. And so I don't think that Dodd-Frank was completely, and not that that's the only thing that Dodd-Frank was addressing, but with regard to appraisals, I think that there's some things that Dodd-Frank addressed in a good way, and I think were helpful. I love the fact that these appraisal orders don't come across with an estimate of value anymore. I do. I like that. But I think that they threw the baby out with the bathwater. I think the idea that it's very challenging, not impossible, of course, but very challenging to talk to a loan officer anymore, that there has to be that, not has to be, but there often is that third party in between us, the AMC, can sometimes be a struggle, right? I don't think that's such a bad idea in general, but we know the disastrous part of the AMC model. And not that Dodd-Frank created the AMC model, but certainly there was a perpetuation because of the way that people perceived Dodd-Frank, people meaning financial gurus, perceived Dodd-Frank, that they had to have that regulatory piece in there, that middleman, that AMC, right? So there's a lot of things that I would like to see Dodd-Frank addressed on and changed and reformed on, right? So on the status, on the face, when I first heard of Senate Bill 2155, the Economic Growth, Regulatory Relief, and Consumer Protection Act, I should have taken a breath halfway between that. I love these titles, right? But when I first heard of it, and I first heard that it was going to be a replacement for Dodd-Frank, my heart leaped a little. I had a little thrill up my leg, right? And but then I started realizing what it was, and it's disastrous, right? It's disastrous. It really is. Now, I am from the great state of Idaho, and I am sarcasm on now at this point. I am so proud that my senator, Mike Crapo, the banking committee chair, was the sponsor of this bill. Okay, sarcasm off. You know what? Mike is actually a pretty good guy. I've met with him on several occasions. I've met with his staff on several occasions. And I think in general, he's a pretty good guy. He's had his hiccups throughout his career. He definitely is a career politician. He's been there a long time. There's some things I don't like about Mike, right? But in general, I think he's a pretty straightforward guy, and he listens, I think anyway. However, I think that this is one more idea that he wanted to be the face of this reform bill. And I don't know who put it together. I just know that his name is on it. And I can tell you that it's disastrous. I mean, there's parts of this that are just going to, if you're trying to fix Dodd-Frank, Mike, this is not the way to do it, right? Those of you who have not read the section I'm going to read in just a second, section 1127, you need to. I'm going to boil it down a little bit. Before I get to there, I just want you all to know that this bill has bipartisan support. So if you think you're going to turn off the podcast now and say, hey, you know what, it's a bill, it's not a law, it's not going to happen anyway, nothing ever gets done in Washington. I'm telling you, folks, this one probably will pass if we don't do something and do something now. And that's the purpose of the podcast today, despite the raspy voice and the getting over a cold. All right. This does have bipartisan support. What does that mean? That means both Democrats and Republicans like it. How many on each side? Well, that changes on a daily basis, but I can tell you it's pretty significant. I can tell you that there's a lot of people on either side of the aisle that do not like the Dodd-Frank, and they want to do something about it, and they're eager to do something about it. And frankly, I don't think Mike Crapo's idea of putting together something is ill-conceived. I think that there's something needed to be put together. The problem is what often happens with these types of bills is they become worse than what they're trying to replace. And here's a situation where there's a lot of good things, I'm sure, in this bill. Again, I've not read it from start to finish, but there's probably some good things in this bill, but there's also some very discouraging things, okay? Let me share one of them. Section 1127. It is titled, and this is a section within Senate Bill 2155. Section 1127 is titled, Exemption from Appraisals of Real Estate Located in Rural Areas. Yes, you heard me right, appraisers. Exception from appraisals of real estate located in rural areas. Okay, I'm already concerned. I'm not going to read the whole section. It's huge. I'm going to read the sections that matter to you and I, listener. Section B says, appraisal not required except as provided in subsection D, notwithstanding any other provision of law, an appraisal in connection with a federally related transaction involving real property of an interest in real property is not required if, number one, here's the ifs, okay? Number one, the real property or interest in real property is located in a rural area, as described in subsection 20 or 1026, blah, 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 the Code of Federal Regulations. Well, guess what, folks? You go to the section 1026, 35B24A of Title 12 Code of Federal Regulations, blah, 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 blah. If you go there, folks, you will find that it's basically the rural areas that are defined by USDA, so that are eligible for USDA loans. Folks, I'm telling you that, by the way, there's no suburban classification in the USDA. It's either urban or it's rural. And if you look at the map of the country, I'm telling you that more than half the country is considered rural. Let me repeat that. More than half the country is considered by this bill to be rural and therefore may be exempt from appraisal services. Okay, if you're not freaking out, hang on tight. Okay, we're going to keep going through this. You should be freaking out a little bit, right? This is a section of a bill that is intended to replace Dodd-Frank that specifically says exemption from appraisals. That's you and me, folks. That's exemption from ordering an appraisal from you and me, an appraiser, of real estate located in rural areas. And I want to make it very clear that more than half the country, according to the map that I looked at, is considered rural areas. I can tell you it's about 90% of the areas that I cover. As an appraiser in the rural state of Idaho, western Wyoming, and northern Utah, I'm telling you that most of my area, a huge majority of my area, is considered rural. Okay, you don't think this affects me? This is going to affect me. Okay, let me continue. Number two, okay, these are ways in which an appraisal may not be required. Number one, if that property is located in a rural area. Number two, not later than 3 days after the date on which the closing disclosure form made in accordance with the final rule of the blah, 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 blah. Basically, the paperwork has to be in place 3 days before the closing, okay? That's not changed from what we have now, okay? I just want to bring it out because Section 2A, a subsection of Section 2, says, has contacted not fewer than 3 certified appraisers or state licensed appraisers as applicable, okay? That is a key. Has to be in a rural area, and the lender has to have documented and contacted at least 3 appraisers. Subsection B has documented that no state certified appraisers or state licensed appraisers as applicable was available. Blah, 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 blah. And then number 3, the balance of the loan transaction value is less than $400,000. That's huge. $400,000 is much above the $250,000 previous limit, right? Okay, so basically, let me boil it down to this. Right? Section 1127, the exemption from appraisals in real estate located in rural areas, a subsection of Senate Bill 2155 that is now cruising through the Capitol. And we'll talk about where it is, by the way, and what you can do about it here in just a little bit. Could possibly exempt appraisers and appraisals on loans, federally related transactions, okay? If, number 1, they are located in a rural area. Number 2, the loan officer has gone through the paperwork needed. Number 3, has contacted at least 3 state certified appraisers or state licensed appraisers. Number 4, no state certified appraiser or licensed appraiser was available. And number 3, and by the way, that's in a reasonable amount of time. I want to come back to that in just a second. Number 3, the balance of the loan transaction value is less than $400,000. Now, some of you are listening to this and saying, well, Dustin, what's the problem? I mean, is that really going to happen? I mean, I work in LA, I work in Salt Lake, I work in whatever. First of all, most of my area is not rural. So what does this matter to me? Okay, fine. It matters to you because it matters to our profession, number 1. And number 2, I'll bet you it affects you a lot more than you think. But what about those appraisers like myself that are in rural areas? Some of them might be saying, well, okay, Dustin, it is requiring the lender to contact 3 state certified appraisers. 3, not 1, not 2, but 3. They cannot exempt an appraisal unless they contact 3 appraisers. And those appraisers have to say, I cannot complete the appraisal in a reasonable amount of time. And of course, then we got the other thing about the balance of the loan being less than $400,000. I mean, Dustin, seriously, what are the chances this is even going to affect us, right? This is so crazy. You got to meet all 4 of those criteria before they can exempt an appraisal. Is that really going to happen? Yeah, it is. And here's why. Here's my prediction, folks. The problem with these bills is the obscure language. And the obscure language, as we kind of already alluded to a minute ago, is this phrase, within a reasonable amount of time. Folks, could you please define for me reasonable? Go ahead, I'll wait. Oh, nothing? Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. The problem with the word reasonable is it is obscure. It is not defined. It is whatever the loan officer decides. Okay, let me repeat that. The word reasonable in this context, the way I read it, is whatever the loan officer decides. And what is an attempt to contact 3 appraisers? Email? Text? A phone call? Nobody answered the phone, so I didn't bother to leave a message? They didn't get back to me within 2 minutes of me sending an email, so therefore I tried and nobody came back. It's a reasonable amount of time. Or I actually talked to 3 certified appraisers, and all 3 certified appraisers said, yeah, I can get out there, but it's going to be about 3 days, and then it's going to be another 3 days before I get it back. I'm sorry, that's not reasonable. I need to have it tomorrow. Is that reasonable? Well, who decides? And that's the problem. The problem with this bill, if those of you are saying, hey, you know what, this might be a good thing, actually, because I'm just going to be the appraiser that can complete this kind of work. Now, folks, I'll be honest with you. My office has been able to do quite well over the years. That's what I talk about in my Go Create Some Value workshop. Be different. Be the appraiser that your peers and your colleagues are not, and you will get the volume. And by the way, it's not about cutting your fees. It's not. I cannot tell you the number of appraisals that I get every month because my clients know that I can get them done with high quality and with speed. Notice I said high quality first. If you can set up a business that allows you to be able to do appraisals quickly yet efficiently and with high quality, you're probably going to do better than I know you're going to do better than your peers. No, I'm not talking about cutting your fees down to $250 an appraisal. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about making sure that your business model is the best appraisal company in the area, and people will come to you. And some of you might be saying, okay, Dustin, this is actually a benefit. This is actually a good thing for me because I have that appraisal business. I have the appraisal business like Dustin's, where a lender can come to me because I'm efficient, because I'm effective, because I have high quality, because I have a process. My business model allows me to be able to do appraisals very quickly, yet with high quality. And so this is going to be a benefit to me, because if I work a rural area and the loan officer calls me and says, hey, we need an appraisal done. I've already called 2 other certified appraisers and they can't get it done except 10 days out. Can you get it done in a reasonable amount of time? Well, I, as the appraiser, can say, yeah, I can actually get it done and done right in 3 days. I can do that. I have the office staff. I have the ability. My business model allows me to be able to do this appraisal in 3 days. Well, great. We called 2 others, but we're going to give it to you. Folks, on the surface, it sounds pretty good, right? It sounds like appraisers could set up their businesses to run efficiently. Again, not cut corners. I'm not just talking about speed here. If your speed flies in the face or cuts at your quality, then you're not doing it right. But if you can still have high quality and produce a product in a reasonable amount of time, maybe this is a benefit to you. Maybe you're going to get more work, not less work, with Senate Bill 2155. Okay, there may be some truth in that. Okay, but, and here's a big but, there is no definition in Senate Bill 2155 or in law that I know of. Okay, go to Black's Law Dictionary. Maybe there's a definition of reasonable. I don't know. But I guarantee it's still obscure. The problem here is this. Loan officers have a great deal of power when it comes to words like reasonable. As long as they can document that they, quote unquote, contacted 3 appraisers and that all 3 appraisers said that they could not get it done in a, quote, reasonable amount of time, folks, they don't have to have an appraisal. Now, here's the problem. Here's the problem before Dodd-Frank. Here's the problem with Dodd-Frank. And here's the problem ongoing without Dodd-Frank. The problem is these loan officers, and by the way, I know a great number of loan officers, they have no skin in the game, and that is the issue here. When you're dealing with a loan, and you all know this, appraisers, when you are doing an appraisal for an in-house loan, it is a different experience. Not only is there less red tape, but there is more scrutiny. I work for a company, I've been working for them for 10 years, and all of their loans are in-house. And I am telling you, folks, they are very, very, very careful to not loan on something that's not worth what it's worth. They don't push values. Why would they? It's in their best interest to not. They don't want a loan on the books with an appraisal that was stretched. When you're dealing with a loan officer at a typical bank that's selling to Fannie Mae, what is the skin in the game? Buyback? Sure. Okay. Sure. There's that. But really, is that loan officer who's getting paid commission, by the way, to close that loan? That's the problem here. That's the issue here. That's what we need to solve. There needs to be skin in the game for those that are putting this loan together, because otherwise they're going to make as many deals as possible and they don't give a damn about whether that mortgagee has the ability to repay that loan. They don't care. They put it together, they package it up, they resell it, and they move on to the next deal. And that's why we end up where we're ending up. This stupid subsection of Senate Bill 2155 will not solve the problem. Senator Crapo, I'm sorry, but this was ill-conceived, it was ill-written, and I hope that this fails miserably. Okay? With any other, with any other legislation, you've got to bear at the door. Language is obscure. There's too much wiggle room. It's not well written. And frankly, I don't mean to sound overdramatic, but this is dangerous for the American taxpayer, and that's really the problem. This is dangerous for the American taxpayer. That is a problem. Okay, folks, when we get back from the break, I'm going to show you how easy it is to do something. And yes, I'm going to encourage you to do something. Don't turn off the radio, please. I'm going to show you how easy it is to do something. I'm going to call my senator. It happens to be Senator Crapo. I'm going to call my senator. He happens to be the sponsor of this bill. By the way, I have already been into his office and called him and emailed him on this very issue. This will be the 4th time I've contacted him, right? But time is of the essence. I'm going to actually do that live and on the air because I want to show you how easy it is to do this. But I first want to talk about our sponsors. I want to talk about getting to know what's going on in the appraisal business. That's what Working RE Magazine is all about. That's what this podcast is all about. We try to keep you informed as to where our profession is going and try to help you to have a leg up on your competition, to be able to do more with less, to be high quality. But you can't do that unless you know what's going on, like Senate Bill 2155 in the Senate today. Folks, if you're not going on a regular basis to workingre.com, you need to start doing that. I'll tell you what, go to www.workingre.com and sign up for their free e-newsletter, and you'll be informed on most things that are going on. You'll get that email to your inbox on a regular basis, letting you know what's going on in the appraisal world. Go to workingre.com. Once again, it's workingre.com. I've been using a la mode software for over 20 years. It's allowed me, as we talked about earlier today, to be more efficient, to do more with less. Folks, without cutting quality. In fact, with increasing it. A la mode allows me to have a higher quality report in a faster turn time. That's what a la mode will do for you. Check them out. Go to alamode.com. You can pick up the phone, folks. I'm telling you, these guys are easy to work with. They understand appraisers. They speak your language. Just pick up the phone. Forget the computer. Go to the phone, dial 800 a la mode and say, hey, what do you have that my current software doesn't? You'll be shocked and surprised. It's alamode.com or 800 a la mode. Finally, our sponsor today is DataMaster. DataMaster, of course, is rolling out DataMaster 6 across the country. And DataMaster 1 is incredible. It'll allow you to save, get this, got a pen and paper ready? 30 to 60 minutes per report. That's crazy, folks. You talk about efficiency. If you can save 30 to 60 minutes per report, how many more reports could you do every month? Well, I'll tell you, it will pay for DataMaster and then some. It's a huge investment in the power that your company can have over the competition. Check it out. Go to datamasterusa.com. One more time, it's datamasterusa.com. All right, folks, we are back. We're talking today about Senate Bill 2155, specifically a call to action. I'm going to ask you to pick up the phone or pick up your email and send off a message to your senators. Right now, this is a Senate bill. As you all know from your, seventh grade government class, you do know that there are three branches of government, and it has to go through not the judicial, but it does need to go through the full legislative process, which means it's got to go through the Senate, it's got to go through the House, it's got to go to the president's desk to sign. The president has already indicated his support for this bill. There is bipartisan support on both sides of the aisle, in other words, from both Republicans and Democrats in both the Senate and the House. Folks, it looks very good that this is going to pass, and that's a concern. And so here's the thing. As we talked about earlier in this podcast, this is the time when you as an appraiser need to step up to the plate, okay? This is the time when you need to say, hey, you know what? Maybe my vote doesn't count. I'm just one person, but you are one person, and you are one person among many, okay? And so here's the key. Here's the key. Now is the time to stake your claim, to let your senators, by the way, this is, at this point, it needs to be a Senate call, okay? It's not to the House yet. This episode will air on Sunday, March 11th, okay? Pick up the phone and call your senator before March 12th, before Monday, even if it has to be Monday. Now, their offices are obviously closed on Sunday, but they do take voicemails, and you can pick up the phone and you can call your senators. I'm going to, again, I've already called Senator Crapo once. I sent him an email, and I stopped into his office personally to meet with his staff. Obviously, he was not there in Idaho Falls, but I did stop in to let him know that I was not very happy with Senate Bill 2155. I'm going to do that again, now, live and on the air. Are you ready? This is how easy it is. It's not hard. I'm picking up the phone right now. I'm picking up my cell phone. I'm calling 208-522-9779. That is Senator Mike Crapo. 208-522-9779. Let's see how this works.
Idaho Falls Regional Office,
voicemail.
U.S. Senator Mike Crapo. If you know your party's extension, you can press it at any time. To leave a message for Senator Crapo, express an opinion or a comment.
Oh, that would be me.
Press
10.
10. For
Okay,
Catherine,
let's do that.
your call is being transferred.
Here we go. It's ringing.
Your party is not available.
Of course
Please
not.
leave a message after the tone.
Hi, Senator Crapo. Dustin Harris calling. I am a resident of Idaho. I'm also one of your constituents here in the great eastern Idaho area. I've actually been to your office on a couple of different occasions. I've spoken to your staff more than once. You and I have met personally. I was once invited to your office to talk about appraisal issues years ago, and I've been there other times on my own volition. I am a real estate appraiser, have been so in Idaho for 23 years, so I have a little bit of a self-interest in Senate Bill 2155. But frankly, Senator, it's not just about my job that I'm calling. Most of my stuff is rural. Most of what I do is rural. This obviously will affect my livelihood, specifically the section about exempting appraisals in rural areas, as you're well aware, being the author of the bill. However, I'm more concerned not about my own livelihood, but about the American taxpayer. Stay with me for a second. It's not just the appraiser who is affected here. The biggest problem that I see here, Senator Crapo, is that as a taxpayer, as someone who has received a mortgage in the past, who currently has a mortgage on my home, sometimes it's only the appraiser who is the single unbiased voice for a mortgage transaction. What I mean by that is everyone else has a self-interest in the process. An appraiser is really the only line of defense, sometimes, which protects the American taxpayer from another major banking crisis. And I know, of course, you don't want that on your watch. And you certainly don't want to be the author of a bill that might perpetuate that. You should know I'm not a big fan of the Dodd-Frank bill. However, I don't like Section 1127 of Senate Bill 2155. I don't think that's the solution.
Maximum length recorded.
Oh boy.
Your message has been sent.
Okay,
Goodbye.
well, I think I got most of what I needed out there. So I guess there is a time limit on there. I was going to end with my phone number in case he wanted to call me. But folks, that's it. That's easy. That was easy peasy. I think I was on the phone for a minute and a half. Not a big deal at all. That's a minute and a half out of my time. And now I feel like I have done my duty. I felt like I've given my name. I've given the fact that I am a constituent. You can call Senator Crapo, but folks, I think it would be more important for you to call your local senators. If you do not know who your senators are, okay, Google it. It's very easy to do. You can find out. There's all kinds of tools online to help you to do that. Or let me give you a phone number. Okay, get your pen and paper ready. If you don't know who to call this number. This is a general number for the Senate, and you can call and just say, hey, here's where I live. Who is my senator? Can you please transfer me? They will. It's a little extra step in there, but if you don't know who to call 202. That's a DC area code, 202-224-3121. Let me give it to you again, 202-224-3121, and just say, hey, here's my name. I'm a real estate appraiser, and I have something to say about Senate Bill 2155. Who is my senator? Let me tell you just something I want to point out, okay? If we're just calling and saying, hey, Senator, you're screwing with my job, I don't know that there's going to be a lot of self-interest on the part of the senator, frankly. You are one person among many. There's not a lot of appraisers across the world. If it's just about saving appraisers' jobs, I don't know that's going to hold much weight. That's why I was very careful in my message to Senator Crapo, and I think you should be as well, that you need to point out why this is bad for the American taxpayer. And even go so far as to point out why this would be bad for you, Senator Johnson, or Senator Jones, or Senator whoever, because you don't want another banking crisis on your watch because you voted for this trashy piece of legislation. I don't know if I would use that word, but point out why they're in their self-interest to not vote for this, okay? Help educate them. From an appraiser's perspective, yes, say, hey, guess what? I know a little bit about how loans are made, and I know a little bit about the process, and frankly, the appraiser is one of the only individuals in that process that has no say one way or the other, has no skin in the game one way or the other. They are an unbiased third party to indicate what the value of that property is so that we don't make the same mistake that we've made in the past. What is the current status of Senate Bill 2155? Well, as of Thursday, March 8th, okay, that is yesterday as of this recording. I'm recording this on Friday, March 9th. It will air on Sunday, March 11th. Okay, a cloture motion was made. I didn't say closure, I said cloture. Okay, let me explain what that means for those of you who don't get yourself involved in politics. I'm sure you've heard the term. What does it mean? It basically means debate's over. They've talked and they've talked and they've talked about this Senate Bill 2155, and it is now time for a vote. Yes, that's how urgent this is. That's why I'm getting out this episode today rather than waiting until my voice returns. A cloture motion was made, and then, as the Senate does, they go home for the weekend. So that was done on Thursday. The Senate is typically not in session on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. They will be back on Monday. I think it might be Tuesday, but I think they'll be back on Monday to make a vote. That's how urgent this is to get the word out. You need to pick up the phone now. Even if it's Sunday when you're listening to this, pick up the phone. Even if you don't get this until Monday or Tuesday, you might just go on Google and just type in status Senate Bill 2155, and it'll tell you right there what's going on. You can always keep up with bills and their status. They're very transparent as far as their process goes. The last update is, as of this recording, was on Thursday, March 8th. A cloture motion was made, and so they're ready to vote. They're ready to end debate and vote. They will probably vote the first part of this coming week. You need to get your name on the record. You need to get your voice heard. Okay, please reach out. I'm going to give you that number again. This is the General Senate number. If you don't know your state senator's direct line, 202-224-3121. Again, 202-224-3121, or you can send them an email. Okay, but please, appraisers, man, if there's any time when you should stand up and say something, if you don't think that you have a voice, please try. Maybe it'll pass. Maybe there's nothing we can do about it. But I'll tell you what, I don't want to be the appraiser who did nothing. Even if it passes, I want to be able to say, I let my voice be heard. And you should as well. Please take the time right now to pick up the phone and call your senators. Senate Bill 2155, 202-224-3121. I mentioned earlier about the Go Create Some Value workshop, allowing you to be able to have a leg up on your competition, to be able to run a more efficient appraisal office. It may become more and more important in the future if this bill passes. Folks, check us out. Go to theappraisercoach.com and look on my products page and check out the Go Create Some Value workshop. It is over 10 hours of instruction, of video instruction, and supporting materials, allowing you to transform the way that you do appraisals as a business owner. 100% money back guarantee if you don't think it's worth every penny. And by the way, use the coupon code PODCAST right now and you'll get a huge discount. PODCAST is the coupon code at checkout, and I guarantee it'll change the way that you do business as a real estate appraiser.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.